All right, Akim, Shabbat Shalom, all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakak, Kodash, the honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone, teaching us his truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Aqua that may listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Raquai, and back in here with another quick and Lord's will as always, an edifying lesson. And I came across an article that discusses the Y chromosome and how it's disappearing, right? So that's really the title of this lesson, and I just wanted to bring a couple precepts in regards to this. And Lord's will as always, and that this lesson may be edifying, right? So, what I want to do is play a short clip of the Y chromosome, right? I want to read a quick article, and I sincerely pray, and this is edifying, right? So just I'm just gonna play it, so just bear with me on this.
Welcome to latest update program. The topic of discussion is why chromosomes are shrinking. A recent study revealed that the Y chromosome, which determines male sex, is degenerating and may vanish in a few million years. Research from SRI deficient Amani spiny rats, which lost the Y chromosome but still reproduce, suggest human might evolve a new male determining gene, offering hope for survival despite the Y chromosome's decline. This breakthrough may provide clues about how humans might adapt in the future. In most mammals, including humans, females possess two X chromosomes while males have one X and a much smaller Y chromosome. Despite its size, the Y chromosome carries the all-important SRY gene, which triggers the development of male characteristics in embryos. The SRY gene was discovered in 1990 and was found to trigger SOX9, a gene crucial for male determination across all vertebrates. SOX9 doesn't reside on the sex chromosomes, but it is activated by the SRY gene, making it essential for male development.
Right, so she's just sharing some insight in regards to the Y chromosome, and essentially, so in a nutshell, women, so females possess two um, X chromosomes, and the male, is able to have X and also Y as well, right? So what I'm going to do real quickly, and there's an article I just want to read. Just bear with me on this. Hold on. So the link here I have on the screen. So I'm just reading it. So I just wanted to read a little bit on it, just to get so you can get a clarification of what's actually being spoken of here. So it says every individual must have at least one X chromosome. Since the female is XX, each of her eggs has a single X chromosome. The male, being XY, can generate two types of sperm. Half bear the X chromosome, half the Y. If the egg receives another X chromosome, so essentially, so women already have the X chromosomes in their eggs, right? And essentially, the man is able to have, so he would have sperm that has the X, and he has sperm that has the Y, essentially, right? So here it says, if the egg receives an X chromosome from the sperm, the resulting individual is XX, forms ovaries, and is female. If the egg receives a Y chromosome from the sperm, the individual is XY, which forms testes, is male. The Y chromosome carries a gene that encodes testes determining factor. The factor organizes the gonad into a testis rather than an ovary, right? So it's just basically kind of breaking down, once a man, sleeps with a woman, and, she receives seed or sperm, so if the sperm has a Y, then it actually develops that male biology. So it develops the testicles, the penis, and if it receives X, if the vice versa happens, ovaries are formed, which forms a vagina, right? So now we're living in a society where essentially what's going on is the Y chromosome is disappearing. So what does that mean? In a nutshell, that that so the man is essentially his presence, or the population of men is slowly declining, right? So, and this is just one of the aspects and one of the factors that's actually contributing to the decline of testosterone, decline of the male population, decline of manhood, decline of masculinity, decline of just manhood in general. And that's what's happening in this new Babylon that we're living in, right? So what I want to do is bring a couple precepts on this. I don't want to really make this too long, but you're starting to see that over multiple different facets where essentially masculinity is becoming essentially a problem. First off, it's by the social engineering that they when a lot of our people go to these schools, these terms get thrown around, such as, for example, toxic masculinity. It becomes a problem, right? And now, this is the social engineering aspect of it. So Esau is a devil because he's working on, multiple different fronts. The scriptures say that the soul that is in him is not upright, right? So instead of actually trying to essentially put together legislation to actually encourage men, and actually encourage women, to actually incentivize them to actually have children and come together, right? Essentially what he's done is kind of pit them against each other, right? So a lot of these women believe that men, they're dangerous and they're toxic and they're this and that, and they want nothing to do with them, right? And a lot of these men are essentially becoming a lot weaker, right? So Esau is the devil. So you understand the importance of living under a wise king, living under a righteous king, which is what we have, which is what we don't have, I said, today, right? So what I want to do, let me go to since I made that point in regards to a judge. So this is Sirach chapter 10, verse 1, and it says, "A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. The judge of the people is himself. So are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein." Here's the point. An unwise king, verse 3, "An unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are the authority, the city shall be inhabited," right? So this is what's slowly declining under an unwise king, because he put forth these examples, and puts forth these different, essentially these sicknesses in the environment as well, that's contributing to the decline of manhood and masculinity and testosterone. I was recently doing a little bit of research on this chemical. There's a chemical called atrazine, and it's essentially what's happening is kind of feminizing the frogs, right? So imagine if that's happening to the frogs, imagine how much more of what's happening to the man that's actually in the city, right? So hold on, let me get Jeremiah. Okay, this is Jeremiah 49, verse 10, and it says, "But I have made Esau bare, I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren, and his neighbors, and he is not," right? So just, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Shai, we're uncovering the different sneaky tactics that Esau essentially does, as attacking the masculinity down to the very core of your own biology, right? And this is just one facet, right? Because it trickles down into essentially your everyday life, because the products that we use in our skin, right? The skin is the largest organ, so they have a lot of these chemicals that we put on our bodies. They cause essentially it essentially is disrupting the endocrine system, right? What happens is Esau is essentially attacking your manhood on multiple different fronts, and it starts. He's doing it slowly, essentially, on multiple different fronts, right? This is just one aspect of it. So the drinking water is one example, right? Another example is the chemicals as well that we put on our skin. The soaps. You take a shower, so on and so forth, and you ingest all these different chemicals. I was watching a documentary recently in regards to a lot of these water treatment plants. Essentially, they don't have the resources or the technology to actually filter out birth control, because a lot of birth control, essentially, when it gets after women use it, it gets flushed into the system, and they don't have the ability to essentially kind of separate it, right? So this is what's also contributing to men's decline in their testosterone, right? Making them a lot more into the happy people, so to speak, right? Right? So you see masculinity essentially being attacked on multiple different fronts, right? The materials that we use to cook, those materials as well, they get into our foods, the aluminum in the deodorant, all these different things are all attacking your masculinity, your manhood, right? The programming as well as you watch on TV, right? A lot of the shows that you watch on TV, they don't actually promote masculinity for the Israelite man. When you look at a lot of our people, when they get into like the music industry, or not even music as a whole, these rappers, these actors, these football players, what do essentially when they get to a certain point of their career? They make them and turn them into essentially women, right? I just saw a clip of there's a rapper I used to listen to in high school. His name was Kid Cudi, right? And I remember when he reappeared, he went back on his TV show called SNL, and he appeared in a dress, right? So this is what's happening. This is the condition of the battle, as well, of what's going on with our people. Seeing these things, right? It's vexing, right? Jeremiah 51, verse 30, and it says, "The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holes. They have Their might hath failed. They became as women. They have burned her dwelling places. Her bars are broken." Right, and you look at the generation Z, this newest generation. They don't have the zeal. They don't have the enthusiasm. They don't have the willingness to actually fight and defend their country, right? They don't have that that zeal, like the zeal that when you read about Judas Maccabees and his brethren. They don't have that zeal to actually fight and die for something that they believe in. They're very, essentially, they've become very comfortable, very complacent, very unwilling. Their patriotism essentially has gone out the window, right? And they don't have the priorities as the ancient men back in the day, right? In the ancient times, they were, they glory in this. They wanted to, die for something that they believed in, right? But that zeal has essentially been thrown out the window, because the society is a society now that breeds a lot of complacency, comfort, opulence, showing a boasting, pride, right, so on and so forth. It's not about actual moral standard and values. It's about more about that agenda that's being pushed, right? Flexing on what you have. Essentially, the scriptures say that let not a mighty man boast in his might, and let not a rich man boast in his riches, right? So so you see the shift in what's going on with this society. um let me get This is Second Ezra, chapter 16, verse 33, and it says, "The virgin shall mourn, having no bridegrooms, the women shall mourn, having no husbands, and the daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. In the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine," right? So you're starting to see the decline of what's happening in this society, because, something also I've been realizing is that because men and women have become so adversarial in this society, men are essentially kind of going their own way, so to speak. A lot of women are essentially getting older because they bought into that corporate, so-called boss babe lifestyle, where they don't, they're getting older and they don't have any husbands. And that's even becoming a lot more and more, when times of war come. Like, for example, when that third war, starts to actually, be at its height, a lot of these men are going to go to war and lose their lives, right? Trying to fight, for their, country, right? So that's why a lot of men are going to die, in this society, right? So let me get Isaiah 32. Okay, this is Isaiah 32, verse 2, and it says, "And a man shall be as an hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as a shadow of a great rock in a weary land," right? So it's describing the importance of a man in times to come, especially a man of the Lord in times to come. Because, in times to come, there's going to be a lot of spirits out here essentially created for vengeance. A good example of that is slowly you start seeing that is these Venezuelan gangs that's been, making a ruckus. I believe it's in Denver where they are, right? So you're starting to see a lot of that, those ingredients being brewed for essentially a civil war, right? And a lot of these men have been essentially been wronged. And that's another thing as well. You have a lot of these men in this society that have been wronged by the state, wronged by the government, when it comes to unrighteous decrees that you read about in Isaiah 10, with child support payments, a lot of men taking on the responsibility and having to pay for children that are not even theirs, right? That's going to breed. And on top of that, if you add other fuels to the fire, such as the increased cost of living, that's going to essentially fan the flames for a lot of these angry men out here, and they're going to essentially take their vengeance out on the society, especially a lot of these women out here, right? So this is exactly what's happening, and this is why the importance, of actually, for a woman to actually be with a man of the Lord, especially in those times, right? Because when it reads this precept here, when it reads, like, how wonderful it is if you're going through a desert and you see this nice big rock, and the rock is able to essentially kind of protect you, is able to cast a shadow, and it actually just gives you that. It's essentially what it is. It's describing a place of refuge, and a lot of these women don't have that. So that's a lot of these women are going to get a serious and severe judgment from Yahweh Bashem Shai, right? A good example of this is a story I always like. It's the story of Elijah, because in that story, one, he's fed by ravens, and another part of that story was, there was a woman that he came into contact with that essentially, that was very peaceable to him, right? But you see the flip side, or a lot of these women on this side are gonna die because they might have scoffed against the prophets, against the apostles. They may have done something adulterous. They may have wronged a lot of these men out here, and a lot of these men are going to take that vengeance upon them, right? So just wanted to bring this out and to describe this condition of the society that we're living in, right? These men, are essentially are going to be in short supply in these times, right? A lot of them are turning into that alphabet lifestyle, and like the scriptures say, as a matter of fact, let me get that. I don't want to mess it up. Matthew 24, verse 22, and Yahushua said, except those days be shortened, there shall no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened, right? And that's the, if this continues, imagine it's just going to lead to a society, that just has a bunch of women, right? And you see the society is just going to crumble, right? So, anyways, I just thought I would make this lesson, it really does show the importance of, you know, of manhood. When we go through the scriptures and we read about, accounts of our forefathers and stuff like that, it really brings you back into that state, because, these celebrities, they teach and they essentially give out that vibration, that manhood is not important. They're part of the problem, essentially, right? Them wearing dresses and them telling you that a trans woman is a woman and all this kind of folly and nonsense, right? Scriptures say that folly is set in great dignity, right? So, anyways, I've rambled on quite a lot. So, I sincerely pray and hope this lesson is edifying. I can leave this link in the description. And I'd like to give our praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushai, Ba'ashim, Rakakwadash, the honors to the apostles and elders of great millstone for teaching us his truth. Till next time, I say Shabbat Shalom.